Welcome to Shields on Hoops podcast, where we talk about Syracuse basketball. I'm here with my co-host Nick Peckham. We're going to give you a quick rundown of Georgetown. We both kind of had some stuff going on Saturday and Sunday, so this will probably get to you guys on Monday morning. Had some time to kind of reflect and think about the nice win for the Orange. Syracuse gets what did it end up being final?
80-68.
80-68 win over Georgetown. Bumps them up a couple spots in KenPom. They're at 95 as of Sunday evening. Highest they've been on the year, I believe. Yeah, they're 97 going into the UVA game, and well, they weren't afterwards. The Orange had some big time performances, right? Some guys really stepped up and played well. Georgetown didn't shoot it well. Part of that due to Syracuse. But yeah, just an overall most complete game so far. Obviously, it's nice to see, and it's nice to be Georgetown. But you know me, I'm the realist. It was Georgetown, and they are garbage. And I don't just say that as a Syracuse fan. I say that as somebody who looks at where they are in every single analytical area. So a good win to enjoy. And we were talking earlier. I'll say this: I'd much rather be going into 9 days off or 8 or 9 days off. Before that Oregon game with a win, rather than having in the good vibes that are in the program right now, than to kind of have that fester for a couple of days until they face Oregon in Sioux Falls on a Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. Oregon, just a really quick look at them, they're number 39 in KenPom. A couple injuries. I don't really know too much about who's out for them. They're still good, obviously, and that is going to be a quad 1, quad 2 opportunity for Syracuse. And a chance for them to get a win against a team that is they're not quote unquote supposed to beat, right? So far, Syracuse has beat everyone. They're higher ranked than on the schedule, and LSU's down to 106. And they've lost to every team that is ranked higher than them. So they are par for the course this season at this point. All right. We'll talk some more details here in a little bit. I want to give the floor to Nick to kind of give his 2 cents about Syracuse and their second win in a row against Georgetown. All right, what you got?
Yeah, so the first thing I want to mention is shout out Qadir Copeland and Monir Hima for being 2 catalysts in this game. Monir Hima, who hasn't really played at all this season, a huge 9 minutes. 4 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, great defense. He went after loose balls, and he was just in the right position every time he was on the floor. Shout out to him for staying ready. Shout out to Qadir Copeland. I mean, when you really look at it, when Syracuse kind of went on that run about 4 or 5 minutes into the second half, Qadir was a huge part of that. The way he played, the way he pushed the ball, his defense. He scored 14 points. Obviously, the one that everyone will remember was the putback dunk off of JJ's missed runner. But outside of that, he was phenomenal yesterday. And, I mean, really, there's not too much bad I could take away from this game. Obviously, like you mentioned, it is Georgetown. They're not the same Georgetown team that we're used to from the Big East days. But like you said, it's nice to get a win knowing that you have 8 days off before you play next Sunday against Oregon, who's a top 40 team in KenPom. So you're flying high coming home, and now you get a whole week to practice and really grind out and watch some film and watch some tape and try to figure this Oregon team out. It's going to be in a neutral site, so it'll be interesting to see kind of like what fans show up and like who kind of has that home court advantage feeling. I know Syracuse fans, from what I've heard, it was kind of like 65-35 yesterday in DC. Ed Cooley made a comment in his post game how he was kind of peed off that there were so many Syracuse fans in attendance. We travel well, especially DC. It's not that far from Syracuse, so like obviously a lot of people traveled, but
too.
Yeah. And one other thing I'll throw out there, obviously Judah had a great game. Judah seems like he's putting a couple good games together in a row after that Reese Beekman lockdown performance that he had against him. But Judah played basketball like Judah plays basketball. He got to the free throw line, put pressure on the defense, and shout out JJ. Probably JJ's best game overall this season since he's been in the Syracuse uniform. 21 points, 5 rebounds. He didn't have any assists, but he was aggressive. He hit all 3 of his threes. I couldn't tell you. I know Brandon's probably got the numbers in front of him. He may have hit 3 threes all year. I'm not sure. I think it was 2.
He hit 3 coming in. Yeah, he matched his total.
That's just I'll say his first 9-game total in one game. So he seems to be more aggressive. We talked about it in their last game against Cornell. He hit that big shot to kind of put him up 5 late in the second half. And then he kind of came into this game and you could see his demeanor was different. And guys kept giving him the ball and they kept pushing him to attack and things like that. And like there's times where you'll see Judah kind of get the ball off an inbounds and just give it back to JJ. Like, here, you play point, you do your thing, and I'll play off of you. And like to have 2 guys that can interchange at that position is huge for this team going into ACC play in a couple weeks and definitely down the stretch for sure.
Yeah, I mean JJ was huge. It just anybody, and again, like Chris Bell and Justin Taylor were not super productive offensively on Saturday. So having JJ pick that slack up, Judah might end up averaging 20 a game by the time the season comes to a wrap here. At least like
if he shoots anywhere between 10 and 15 free throws a game,
if he gets 13 points from the line, so and I said this earlier, I just don't know how he keeps getting to the foul line. Like part of it is he gets a little bit of star treatment. Part of it is he's good with his body. Part of it is defenders are stupid. Like they just keep they keep jumping, and every time you're not going. First off, you're probably not blocking his shot unless you're coming from the other side, right? Like you're not blocking him on the ball. So people keep trying to get shot blocks, and it's just not going to work. But back to JJ, I thought JJ was good. Obviously, when it goes in, it's a lot better. I thought his shot looked a little more smooth. I don't know if they doctored it up or a little bit, or they just said, "Listen, bro, like just stop thinking and just shoot the ball. Like don't even think it. Don't think mechanics. Don't think this. Just let it rip. Okay, just let it rip. Let it rip. If you miss it, and if you miss 1 or 2, then stop shooting. Like that's what I would say. I'd be like, all right, look, he's what I would consider a yellow light shooter, right? Like green light is Taylor, Bell. Let it fly. Let it fly. Maybe Judah. Let it fly. Right. If you're open, shoot it, or you're coming out. Pretty much. Right. Yellow guy would be like a JJ who is like, okay, well, if you miss 1 or 2, you probably need to just drive it a little bit and just kind of be very, very selective. And then you got your red guys with that's Quillier. But until he makes like 2 or 3, and I can't handle it. But anyway, JJ again, I thought he did a good job. Had 1 or 2 silly turnovers, but for the most part, he was pretty solid. Did a good job getting to the rim. Loved that and one for him. That kind of felt like a vindictive and one at the end of the game. Just like I felt good for the kid, right? Because I think he's kind of had a little rougher go at it than he figured he was going to have coming over here, coming back home, being that guy. And it's just there's been a little bit of growing pains. And again, I always say time will tell, right? We'll see what conversation we're having in mid-January, like in the thick of ACC play, like what team is this? Which JJ is this? Which Judah is this? We'll have a very good idea about where those guys fit together when it starts to get real, and it's going to get real quick. So
I think the big thing that a lot of people have to realize is obviously Judah played here last year and he came back, which was huge news at the time. But adding another guy who, I mean, in a way kind of plays like Judah. He likes to get downhill. He likes to get to the rim. Like to be 7-3, and obviously, like you said, we've beat the teams we were supposed to beat and we lost to the teams that we were expected to lose to. But to be 7-3, and it seems like these 2 guys are slowly figuring it out at this point in the season is I mean, it's pretty impressive. When you can get 46 points from the two of them combined, you're going to be in most games this year and possibly win most games. Because like you said, Justin Taylor and Chris Bell were combined 3 for 11 and 2 of 6 from 3. So like they had 8 points combined. So the odds of them getting 8 points combined again like that in a game like this it probably won't happen. So if you can get the 20 or the 46 from your two guards plus the way Chris Bell's been shooting the ball and the way we know Justin Taylor can shoot the ball. And then, like, obviously the couple guys off the bench, like Malik Brown, who's been solid all year. Obviously, Qadir with the 14 kind of helped with Justin and Chris kind of struggling offensively. But, like, to play the way they have, and you can see the last couple games. After the Virginia game, you can kind of, like, I felt like it was a big wake-up call to this team, like more than Maui was, to go on the road and to kind of, like we talked about it, to be in it for 13, 14 minutes in the first half and kind of have a plan, and then it all fell apart. They kind of feel like they're growing together, and it's more I don't know if it's more they're letting JJ kind of run point and let Judah, like, play off the ball and just kind of do his thing, so that way there's no overthinking of it. But it just seems different now than it did early on in the season between the two of them.
Yeah, it seems like they're kind of handing the keys over to each other back and forth a little bit more, different points in the game. Kind of just trusting each other. And I think back to what you said about Maui, I feel like they knew they were going to get dog walked. Like deep down,
tough, right?
Like, deep down, like, you're a competitor, okay? So you think, okay, we can find a way to do this. But, like, deep down, they knew, well, shit, we're playing Gonzaga in
Tennessee.
Like we're not ready for this. Like, they knew, they probably knew that, right? So, like you said, that's one wake up call, right? But then when you get just embarrassed against Virginia, who is in your conference every year that you play, right? That's a different kind of wake up call, because that's a more that's in a just some people's standards and not as good Virginia. That is a little bit different of an experience because, well, UVA is in our conference. Other teams play UVA in our conference. Other teams don't get beat like that. So it's kind of like, you know,
and it was their first true road game, so you got that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of these guys that didn't play as much last year got that experience of being on the road in a hostile environment, and I felt like it brought them together at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that was a good thing, and hopefully we'll see. Again, like, we'll see. Everything. The thing about basketball is it's a cruel sport, man. Like, it's a very humbling sport. It's one of those things where you can feel great about yourself, and then, you know, you play a game 2 days later and a team goes 12 for 20 from 3 all of a sudden when they shot 5 for 30 their last game. It's just one of those. It's just a humbling sport.
I've mentioned it plenty of times on here. I coach a freshman basketball team at Liverpool. We started off the season 3-0. We won every game by at least 18 points. And then this past week we had 2 home games. We lost by 6 and we lost by 3. And we're 3-2 now. And a lot of these kids were like, they were flying high, right? But like you said, basketball is a game where anything can happen. Guys can get hot. Guys can, like, do whatever. So, like, next week we play 2 games with Tuesday and Wednesday. So now they have a chance back to back to redeem themselves. But, like, basketball will humble you as quick as it will take things away. So,
yeah, and it can flip positive for you too. I mean, just as fast. So, yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens next. I don't think there was a ton of resistance from Georgetown. I feel like Syracuse kind of got what they wanted. Offense was, it was easy to run offense. So, that's something that, you don't want to get overly excited about, because, again, right now they have the 312th defense in the country. Let's talk some Syracuse numbers. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the game.
Actually. Hold on. Before you jump into numbers, there's one thing I wanted to point out. I loved it because last year you didn't see anything like this, but there was a moment in the first half when one of the guys, I can't remember his name. I don't know. I think it was the transfer from Texas. He was on a fast break, and Chris Bell kind of bumped him, and then another dude came up, and they kind of got face to face. Last year you didn't see that from anybody on this team, not just Chris Bell, but anybody on this team. So to see that and to see how, like, they kind of backed each other up, it definitely felt a little bit different for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's a lot more edge in this game, I thought, as well. Real quick, a couple other player things. Yeah, Quadir, best game of his maybe Syracuse career. You might say Wake Forest last year, but this is a pretty big game for him. Did a good job getting to the rim. Had a nice putback dunk. Was very active. I thought things went really well for him. He had he had that one finish he almost had where he went from his right to his left hand.
Hung in the air with it, and then he ended up
Dude.
going up for his own offensive rebound, and Georgetown hit it out, so he got possession back after that as well.
Yeah, so you see it. We've all seen it over and over again. But if he can do that, if he can just stay aggressive and actually just not really, as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, he pretty much has to play. Like as long as he's not turning the ball over and shooting threes, he's got to be on the floor because
there was one other really nice play that from Quadir. Obviously had a couple in this game, but there was one where he was up at the top of the key and he threw it to Hema, who was coming up, and then Hema kind of handed it back off to him, coming off like a little screen, and he went downhill and dunked it with a guy like right behind him. So like you said, the points are the points, right? He's 14 points, would take that any day of the week, but just his aggressiveness and the different kinds of things that he showed on the floor, that's what we need moving forward.
Yeah, he's got some versatility that Chris Bell can shoot it. That's about it. Sometimes he gets to the rim. Justin Taylor can shoot it. Can't really get to the rim. Has somewhat of a pull-up game. Decent defender. Quadir can kind of do a little bit more. I know he can't shoot it, but he can do a little bit more and score in a couple different ways than some other guys on the team have. I thought Monir Hema was awesome. It's going to be hard to justify not giving him at least a chance to play after Saturday. Look, Naheem McLeod is on the struggle bus. I feel bad for the kid. I think he's a great guy. I think he works hard. It's just I don't know where he fits. It's just hard. It's hard to play him because everybody's going to pick on him. Every opposing defense is going to put him in pick and roll situations. Everybody's going to be like he can't move, and they're just going to attack him. And he's too much of a detriment defensively, and he's not really a threat offensively. And I mean, Hema's not a threat offensively either, but defensively, Hema can keep the ball in front. He can cut guys off. He can do things like that, and he still blocks shots, right? And he rebounds, and he plays hard. And I don't think Naheem is not playing hard. I just don't think his body allows him to play hard enough, if that makes sense. I don't know how much more his body can actually physically do as a human being. It's not like I don't think he's out there like, I'm not going to play hard. I just don't know if his body can do any more than it's doing, besides being very big and long. So I don't know.
I think you will see, obviously not right away, but as I think you will see Hema get a couple more minutes here and there. I think if he plays like he played and he continues to trend in the right direction, you could see a change in the starting lineup down the road if Naheem can't stay on the floor.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I don't understand the point in the we're just going to start Naheem just to start him kind of thing. I know it's like a thing people do. Sometimes people like to stick with their starting lineups and routines, but yeah, it's going to be hard again. And the question becomes I think it's obvious that Syracuse is better when he's not on the floor. Even though they're missing out on some things with him not being on the floor, right? Like the trade-offs by having Malik out there instead. I think there are more positive trade-offs with having Malik out there than there are negative ones. It makes Syracuse undersized. Yeah, it makes them not probably super great on the offensive or the defensive glass. It puts them in bad situations. But you got to look at things like that and be like, well, how can we flip this into an advantage, right? Like, how can I make this? How can we make this roster we have? Because again, you heard me say it. The roster is the roster, right? We can complain, we can wish it was a certain way, we can hope for all these things, but we have who we have, right? And it's the coaching staff's responsibility and job to make sure that who we have is being optimized to give the team the best possible chance to win. And
you saw that against Georgetown. He played 4 minutes.
Exactly. And I will say that, like, for the most part, I will say that the guys who play well play. And I like that. I'm happy that's happening. And Boeheim was the same way, honestly. Boeheim just didn't give as many chances as Red does. I feel like Red gives more chances, which ends up hurting him a little bit because we give up these bad runs and guys don't perform and all that. And we'll see if that tightens up in the season. The point being, the team is better even when they're undersized and they have Malik. Just like the team was better when Dolage was undersized and playing 5. Like, it just is what it is. Like, this is the best team that we can field right now at Syracuse University at this point in the program. That's all that matters, right? This is the roster. This is how we're going to make it work. And this is what we're going to hang our hat on. And we're going to make teams have to guard us on the perimeter. We're going to be quicker than your 5. You might be stronger than our 5, but we're going to be quicker than your 5. You know what I mean? So I think those things are things that the team – I feel like the coaching staff is just going to have to buy in on and really sell those guys on. And I don't know where it leaves guys like Naheem, and I don't even want to talk about Benny. So I'm just over it. Like I said it earlier, and this might be mean or incorrect, but I think the only reason Benny played was because he was a local guy, and he's kind of closer. He's from the DMV area, and they're in Georgetown and all that. And like Red and them are boys. Like their families are tight and all that stuff. But like, it's just he doesn't play hard. He's not engaged, and he doesn't flow with anything they're doing. Like when the ball goes to his hands, everything just dies. Like it just dies. And I don't know. I don't know what else they can do with him because it just doesn't have any flow. And again, you don't know if he's going to play on Sunday. Who knows? Or just like I don't know. But anyway, we're talking about Munir, right, and Malik, and I just think those guys got to get the majority of minutes at center. And I think there might be some teams, if they really can't shoot it, they have a big who can't shoot at all. Like if they have a point guard who can't shoot and the big who can't shoot, maybe you can play him there and he can rebound a little bit and give some relief. But as a starter, it's hard to justify 15, 20 minutes a game right now for Naheem.
There's a reason, and fans have to realize this. There's a reason why when he hit the transfer portal, Florida State wasn't upset about losing a guy who's 7'4" and like can hold his own for the most part at that position, like physical weight, like. But like, there's a reason why it wasn't. They didn't really blink an eye, right? And like we talked about, his best game last year at Florida State was against Syracuse, who had a scrawny Jesse Edwards at center and played a 2-3 zone.
Yeah, and it's like I said in. I don't know June, the summer. I was like, cool, great, this is awesome. However, it's still a guy who sat the bench at 7'4" on a crappy Florida State team. Like they weren't even good.
That's a transfer portal addition that you would be happy about 6-7 years ago. Getting a guy who's 7'4" like that to play in the middle of a 2-3 zone. But you're not playing a 2-3 zone anymore. You're playing man.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I think he could fit if it was 2-3, but it's not. All right. So I think that covers most of the guys. Malik Brown was great, like we've been saying. Let's see here. Stat wise, Syracuse was more efficient offensively as a team. Syracuse and Georgetown both turned it over at the same rate. Georgetown was just a little bit better offensive rebounding than Syracuse was. I mean, like just barely. And Syracuse got to the line at a better rate than Georgetown. So the main stats that Syracuse needed to win, they did a good job in. 1.02 points per possession versus 0.83, 1.17 per shot attempt versus 0.93. So like all really good things. Georgetown, the only way they were more efficient was from 2. And this is the big stat was points per 3-point attempt. Syracuse 1.36, Georgetown 0.58. That was the big one. I think it was the biggest gap that allowed Syracuse to kind of like keep a lead and get the lead and extend the lead is that Georgetown just couldn't make a 3. Like they did, and some of that was Syracuse pressure. Some of that was like pushing things late into a shot clock. Some of that was like dudes just missing. Georgetown hits 2 or 3 more threes. It kind of changes the flow of the game and keeps things within more of a striking distance, but they didn't. And, we've been on the other side of that plenty of times where we just don't make shots. But that's the sign of a team that's not good, right? Like, oh, we just didn't make our shots. Oh, yeah, well, then you need to find other ways to win, right? like I think it was Buzz Williams who said it once. He was like, he hates that. Like, he hates that when people will say that, oh, we got good shots. Well, it doesn't matter. Like, we still lost the game. You got to do something if your shots aren't going in.
One stat that stood out to me was, I think we talked about it on our pregame pod, and I think we texted about it before the game yesterday. Fast break points. I said if Syracuse can win that advantage and turn over Georgetown and things like that, then they have a great chance of winning. Well, Syracuse won the fast break points 20-2, and the one bucket that Georgetown had was, I think it was like a minute and 10 seconds left in the game, and they got a layup to make it. It was 80-66. They cut it 80-68. So Syracuse dominated 20-0 fast break points for 38 minutes of that game. And that was, I mean, we talked about it. Georgetown did the two things Georgetown was very good at were Syracuse weaknesses, and that was offensive rebounding and three-point shooting. But the one thing that Georgetown was very poor at was Syracuse's one great thing, and that was turning teams over. And like you mentioned, the offensive rebounding was kind of identical. And then, like, obviously Georgetown shot horrible from three, but Syracuse turned them over. I mean, the turnovers were 14-14, but
again, not all turnovers are created equal. And
yes,
Syracuse got dunks out of turnovers.
And Syracuse, even the points off of turnovers, Syracuse had 20, Georgetown had 13. Exactly. But Syracuse fast break points were 20-2. So they got out and they pushed the ball when they got those turnovers. There was even some instances on rebounds where they kind of, if like one of the forwards got the ball, the rebound, they would dribble up the floor and kick it ahead, and their guards had a one-on-one or an open lane to the rim. So they took advantage of the little things like that. And that's how Syracuse needs to play. They need to get out and run, especially with this team.
Yeah, just because it's going to be hard. Like, it was good. It was better on Saturday. But again, you're not going to play a defense worse than they played on Saturday. So like that, literally, that's the worst defense that they're going to play the rest of the year. And I think that when you play better defenses, if you can't, like, that's why they need to turn teams over and play fast on the defensive end, or at least like be disruptive, because it's going to be hard for them to score the majority of their points in the half court, right? Like, so if you look at the ACC right now, defensively, like, okay, Carolina has the 49th best defense, UVA 4th, Clemson 32nd, Miami's 120th, which is crazy. Virginia Tech is 75th, NC State 66, Georgia Tech 108, Wake 97, Duke 31, Pitt 72, Boston 113, Florida State 71, Notre Dame 105, Louisville 178. So like a couple tough ones in there, right? Like UVA is really good defensively. Clemson, even though they have Joe Girard guarding guards, is 32nd. So there's that theory for you guys. Duke is 31st. So like they got a couple top 50 defenses in the ACC they're going to see. Like they had Clemson twice. I think they only got Duke once though. So, and right now Syracuse has the 80th best defense in the country, which is crazy to think about. But they do. Number 80 right now defensively. Offensively, they are at 119, so not super efficient. And according to this, they have the second toughest conference schedule. That's just based on what's happened so far this year. So ignore that. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of where they stand. And according to Ken Pom right now, Judah Mintz is on the all Ken Pom first team in the ACC. So based on his numbers so far, it's Filipowski, Hall, Armando, Beekman, and Judah. So doing things well. And again, we'll learn a lot when conference play and the grind comes along, right? Like you figure out who teams are in January. Like it's gonna become very apparent the track this team's on for the rest of the year by about January 20th or so.
Yes.
Yes.
And like we've mentioned, so Syracuse now, today is December 10th. So between now and December 30th, they play 3 games. They play Oregon, they play Niagara, and then they play Pitt. So from now until the end of the year, this year, they play 3 games. So they're definitely going to have rest. They're definitely, I mean, we mentioned it going into this 6-game stretch after Maui. I think we said 4-2 would be nice. 5-1 would be great. Well, right now they're 3-1. So you beat Oregon, and then you have Niagara, and then you hit ACC play. So these next 2 games are going to be very important for Syracuse. Would love to go 2-0 and have a huge win against number 36 Oregon, who's ranked 36, obviously in Ken Palm. But it'd be definitely a huge boost for this team heading into ACC play, especially with their first 6 ACC games. They play Pitt twice, and then we're at Duke, at North Carolina, and home against Miami. So that's a tough first 6 games. Outside, I mean, you take obviously Virginia, we already played. So it would be their next 6, I guess, after that one. But their first 6 for the ACC real play starts. So yeah, these next 2 games would be huge to go 9-3 heading into that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think they'll probably be 8-4. I don't know. I mean, I know Oregon's a little banged up. We'll talk about Oregon later, but if all things go to plan, they'll be based on stats, they will be sitting at 8-4 heading into ACC play. You remember a couple of weeks ago, I think Ken Palm had them at like 9 wins in the year. Right now they're at 16-15. So they're making some progress. They're doing some things well. They don't do anything super great right now besides turn teams over. I mean, really, Syracuse is doing a great job of keeping teams off the line, too. They're number 65 in the country there. So, like, I think that's what's making the defense play so well is how much they're turning efficiency-wise. Like, how much they're turning teams over, how many blocks and steals they're getting. Syracuse's best defensive statistic, though, is their free throw defense, which isn't even a real thing, right? But if you look at their numbers, teams are only 21 teams have had teams shoot worse at the foul line than Syracuse has this year so far. So you can take that for what it's worth, but they're 22nd in free throw defense. Teams are shooting 64.7% against Syracuse, and the average is 70.8. So
I think it's more of a, like, when you, especially stats like that, I think it's more of who goes to the line. Like,
yeah, who keeps teams
like
on the line.
there's you. I think you texted me during the game. You either texted me or tweeted me about it, but there's one thing that I think one specific player on Syracuse has to clean up. Judah and the unnecessary fouls that he takes, like, at half court. Like, yeah. I get you're trying to slow down transition, but trying to take a charge, first of all, trying to take a charge in college basketball nowadays, even in the paint, is ridiculous. So you trying to stand in front of somebody at half court to take one, it's like. And then I think there was one point where he picked up his 4th, and he kind of sat a little bit in the second half. You just can't afford the cheap ones.
Yeah. And those are things when you watch film and you're like talking, like, hopefully what happens is you're like, Judah, like, we need you on the floor. Like, this is not the place. Like, even if it's a trend, like, let the guy go. Don't try to block. Like, I've coached guys where I've been like, I need you on the floor. We cannot win if you are not playing. So, like, you just, again, trade-offs, right? Like, what's the trade-off here? Like, do I let a guy kind of get to the lane a little bit easier so I can play for 8 more minutes, or do I pick up this 3rd foul, right? The trade-off, I think, is pretty obvious on those. So, like,
you see it in NBA games when, like, big stars get, like, their second in the first half, right? And their coach leaves them out there. Like, sometimes if you're a big guy and a dude, I mean, NBA teams are smart enough to know, hey, this guy has 2. And they'll kind of go at you, and it's do I follow him and send him to the line, or do I just give up a layup in the second quarter, and then hopefully later on I can finish the 4th quarter instead of having to sit for the last 4 minutes?
Exactly, 100% true. Yeah, 100% true. And Judah's not one of those guys where I'd be like, hey, don't get your 4th. I don't trust Judah to do that. He's too competitive. Like, he's just too aggressive. He's too competitive, and he's just like it's too tempting for him to stick his hand in there because he might poke it away, and because he does have good hands and he does make good plays, and those are big plays that he makes when he does get those steals. But again, this defense is bad enough 5-on-5, like in the half court. So if you make it 5-on-4, it's not going to be good. So I'll be interested to see. Right now the defense. Okay, so like right now the defense is sitting at 80th.
I mean, that's not. Listen. When you watch, like if you do an eye test, I couldn't. If you asked me what number they were defensively, I would have
I
never
wouldn't
said
say
that.
that. I wouldn't say that.
No way.
No way.
No way. I
There's
wouldn't
no
have
way I
said
would say
80.
that.
I would have said, I mean,
Yeah.
being generous, 170, 165, maybe.
Yeah, it's like 150s probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Like watching
there's no
them
way.
eye test wise.
Yeah. There's no way I would say, yeah, no, not a chance. But they turn you over, they block your shots,
And
they
they
keep you
don't
off
send
the
you
shot.
to the free throw line, right? Like
Yeah,
those are the
exactly.
big things, right?
They're doing a lot of the important things really well. And there have been some teams that just, I mean, again, Georgetown and LSU were 5 for like 46 gets them from 3. So like that helps as well, like when teams miss shots. So we'll see what happens again when it's, Power 5 competition every single night, 2 nights a week. I think that 80 they'll probably hover around the hundreds, 115s when things are all said and done. Just because teams aren't going to turn it over at the same rate, they're not going to. I think they'll start crashing the glass a little bit better as well. So, whatever, we can deal with that later. You got anything else you want to add, man? I'm feeling pretty good.
No, I'll just a couple of things. One thing I'll add, I will go around the ACC from yesterday. Obviously, Syracuse got the win. Virginia Tech had a dominant win at home. South Florida beat Florida State in the Orange Bowl Classic.
Orange Bowl Classic.
Duke won by 24 at home. Georgia Tech took care of business. Clemson had a huge 8-point win in Toronto against TCU. I don't know if that's kind of basketball gods redeeming or sending TCU down for the win that they had against Georgetown. But and then obviously Pitt beat Canisius by 11. Wake Forest won, and Marquette dominated Notre Dame. It might be another one of those years for Notre Dame like they had last year. And then the last one, Louisville, who is headed for the bottom of the dumpster. They lost by 7 to DePaul, but that score doesn't actually replicate what happened in the game. It was actually bigger than that. And Louisville kind of made it close at the end to make the score kind of look reasonable. Mm-hmm. But Louisville, again, Syracuse almost lost to Louisville last year somehow, some way, but we slid out with a win. But they are 4-5 on the year, and they've had some very bad losses. They lost to Chattanooga. They lost to, Texas is a good team. Somehow they lost to Texas by 1. I don't know how, but that's around the ACC. And then I don't think there was anything ACC-wise. Miami lost to Colorado today, and Boston College beat St. John's. So one impressive win for the ACC with Boston College over St. John's, and then kind of hurting the ACC with Miami there getting demolished by Colorado by 27. And then I don't think there's any big ACC games coming up during the week.
Clemson plays Memphis
Saturday.
Yeah.
North
Carolina plays Kentucky Saturday.
Tennessee, NC State Saturday. So Saturday, there's a couple big games.
Yeah. I think there's a ton of big games across the country on Saturday. Notre Dame plays Georgetown Saturday. That'll be interesting to see. Just to see what Notre Dame does against Georgetown as well.
I don't think there's.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just looking at top 25 for the week. Like you said, I don't think during the week. I don't think there's much, but I think
week across the country. So
Friday night, you have UConn Gonzaga. Friday night, 2 top 10 teams tipping off, and then Saturday you have obviously, like you said, you have North Carolina, Kentucky, Kansas, Indiana, Baylor, Michigan State, Texas A&M, Houston, Clemson, Memphis, Arizona, Purdue. So top 5 matchup.
Yeah, it's a crazy weekend.
Alabama, Creighton. And a big one if you're a Syracuse fan, LSU takes on Texas. Obviously, if LSU wins, it'll move them up in Ken Palm, so Syracuse's win against LSU will look even better. I don't think that happens. But and Sunday, as well as Syracuse plays Sunday. Also at 1 o'clock, Colgate takes on Illinois, who is right now ranked 20th in the country on ESPN. So obviously another big game for a resume builder for Syracuse.
Did Vermont beat Colgate, or did Colgate beat Vermont?
I think Colgate beat Vermont.
I think so too. Yeah, so that's a good win for them as well.
And then last thing I want to throw out there around the college basketball world, I know it's not as big to me, but it's big to the people who love college basketball like that. LeBron's son made his debut for USC today. I think he only scored one bucket. He was 1 of 3. He hit a 3. But just to see him on the floor after what happened in the offseason is pretty remarkable. But USC ended up losing to Long Beach State, which was an upset out in the Pac-12, or what is to be of the Pac-12 for the next 3 months. But yeah, so Bronny made his college debut. But that was a big thing. They talked about it all day. So
yeah, pretty quiet week, pretty good weekend. Based on Ken Pom, the top game tomorrow is Howard at Penn. Tuesday, the top game is Western Kentucky at Wright State. Wednesday, Utah State at Santa Clara. Thursday, Furman at Tulane. Friday, then UConn Gonzaga is on there.
Yeah, so pretty quiet week for college basketball during the week this week.
Arizona and Purdue. We might find an excuse to do a pod on Wednesday or something, just to kind of talk about things. I'm thinking I'm probably going to put some numbers together and maybe compare like Red's first 10 games to the first 10 games last year, and just kind of see, because I feel like it's like a similar-ish schedule. This
and for all Syracuse fans who are disappointed that Adam Weitzman is no longer part of quote-unquote NIL and bringing big people to Syracuse to watch games. By the way, we were 0-5, I think 1-4, 0-5 in games where he brought an NFL player to watch. So I'm kind of glad that they're not coming anymore. But he somehow managed to get Jim Boeheim to leave his house in Syracuse to go watch Binghamton yesterday. And they sat courtside because he's involved with the Binghamton program where Samir is now. Adam is. So he managed to get Jim Boeheim out of his house to go watch the Binghamton game yesterday. So I thought that was pretty unique.
That is unique. That's quite unique. All right. Well, that's it from us, guys. We'll see you guys maybe midweek. If not, we'll see you Sunday. And thanks for hanging out with us. Like, subscribe, share. Tell your cousins, your friends, your spouses. If you enjoy listening to us, you have good taste, and they probably want to listen to us as well. So on behalf of Nick Peckham, we are out of here. Thank you, guys. Have a great rest or great week of some slow basketball, and we'll see you this weekend.